All right. You know, a lot of people, they wonder how many pairs of bluebirds they've got on their property. Bluebirds sing the most before dawn. Okay, so if you're a late riser, you sleep until 9 o'clock, you already missed it. Okay? Seriously, especially this time of year, of course, they're already nesting, they're getting ready to start re-nesting again. But if you get up before dawn, get your coffee out there and sit and listen, the male bluebirds, whether she's on the nest or they're still courting or whatever, the male bluebirds will go to the highest point in the tree in their territory. Okay, if you've got 10 or 15 acres there, I've got like 20 acres, but in my front area up there, I can usually hear 4 male bluebirds. 2 of them are on the neighbor's land, one's on mine, and one's kind of bordering in between. But they'll get up there every morning, and basically what they're doing is they're singing, and then the other male bluebirds are all going to challenge them back and say, ha, 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 I made it overnight. You thought that cat got me last night, but it didn't. So basically they're announcing, and a lot of birds will do that. They'll get up there and they'll call right before dawn. You'll hear the redbirds singing in the morning and everything. It's not that they're singing, they're bragging that they made it through the night. So they're up there, and like I say, that defines their territory without having to fight. And if you get your binoculars out, you can get up there, and if you watch, you'll see those males be at the very top. And if they're not getting a call or challenge back from the other side, they'll try to expand that territory. Because what these males are doing is they're trying to hold enough territory with the best nest sites in it. And the nest site doesn't have to be real good, but what they have to do is they have to show their females that come to them a spot to nest in. And here again, the birds don't, they don't read the books. So this poor bluebird, they're talking about you're supposed to have 1.5 inch hole. It's got to be perfect. We're going to show you something. It's really not the hole's got to be perfect. It's got to be dark. They got to be able to see that. We were laughing earlier this morning about people that spray paint a black spot on a box. I had a customer that we're kind of stalling time until everybody gets back in. They're outbidding y'all. They stayed in the other room. I had a customer call one time, and he says, Keith, I said, I need you to come out and paint my white garage. I said, well, what color you want? He said, I want it white again. I said, well, what's wrong with it? He said, well, my kid, 6 years old, went out there with a spray can of black paint, and he polka dotted their garage. Thank goodness it was wood. But anyhow, we were working on some other stuff out there, and bluebirds, it was in the spring, a poor male bluebird was going down to every dark spot on the walls of that garage. And he was bragging to his girlfriend that was sitting up there going, oh my God, I've got an idiot. But they will go about 20 acres. If he can hold that much territory, that male will take that female over those 20 acres because she's the one that accepts living in that eave of that old house. And here again, it's a dark spot. This was in a parking lot there in Mount Pleasant. When you see the whitewash under those black holes there, what that means is birds were nesting in there. That was the dirty diapers that they were dropping on the way out. So, you kind of look at this stuff and you go, wow, it doesn't have to be just 1.5 inch hole. See that big box up there? Well, yeah, they nested in the bottom of it. Well, there's double wide. It's very common for those electric meters, those 7-inch holes, to be removed for various reasons. Bluebirds will nest down in those. But they're going to nest about anywhere. We kind of talked a little earlier about, keeping those boxes where you can check them out. When we're showing all this stuff to the kids, y'all look at these photos here, and I'm going to see if somebody catches what's wrong here. First place, you don't want to be lifting kids up for a box. And you don't want them on a tree. Snakes go up the trees. Squirrels go up the trees. Raccoons, cats, everything can go up that tree there. But the main thing is bluebirds will nest up there, but they'll also nest down here at eye level where it's safe. And then otherwise, I got to carry a ladder out there and let these kids go up there and look. This was a church group. And then we built boxes for all these kids. If you look at the girl there on the right, she's got that gourd there, and she's hand painted that. But she didn't do a birdhouse. She did a cat feeder. See that shirt? So be real careful when you go out there. She has that, Bird got the, look at that grin, look at that. She's like, ha, 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 I got a new cat feeder. But anyhow, when you go out, you kind of have to watch that. I learned that it took me a long time to figure out you weren't supposed to put boxes on trees. God actually told me, don't put boxes on trees. Because early on, I was probably in the 8th grade, and I'd make birdhouses and sell them, this, that, and the other. When I had a reject, if you had a nail come out, I found out nobody would buy that box, okay? So then I'd end up having to donate that down somewhere where I saw bluebirds nesting. So if you saw bluebirds out along the road, I would hide that box on the backside away from the road so nobody would steal my good boxes here that were rejects. So anyhow, there was this spot, and bluebirds were there. I nailed the box on the backside of the tree. Bluebirds nested in it. Within 2 weeks, this is the first box I put up off of my family farm there. Lightning struck that tree, came down the backside of that tree, and killed those bluebirds in that nest. So I didn't know until it happened the second time on a tree that's like, maybe he's telling me you shouldn't put boxes on trees. But anyhow, you have a lot more predation on the trees. Fire ants will go up the trees and all, so don't put boxes on trees. And don't put them way up on trees. So, but you run into everything over time. So, yeah, you don't want to go up there and check those boxes. But here again, you want to put them up there at eye level. That way that, the kids can go out there and walk up and check them. Somebody else is asking about a good pole. That's basically the electrical conduit over the half-inch rebar. You can pick that up and move that. You can pull that pipe back out of the ground, the rebar out of the ground, and shift it if you have to. But here again, there's some kids. Perfect habitat there. You got scattered trees in East Texas. You got livestock in the background. They're eating that grass down. So you've got everything you need to keep bluebirds happy. And that was actually, somebody's mentioned the Harry Kruger. That's one of Harry Kruger's boxes right there. We did little aluminum plaques on them. And the funny thing is that we were shown that the bluebirds were pretty much only in East Texas. You had bluebirds flying to the east. There was nothing out there in West Texas there back then. Here's another box. I really believe, and everybody keeps asking me, says, well, how do you get up boxes? And, I'd like to put up boxes, but I don't know who to talk to. Well, just go out there and ask. I mean, they really don't care. I mean, I know a lot of people like to put boxes up in golf courses, but, I mean, out here they're carrying flowers. On a golf course, what are they carrying? Clubs. I mean, it shouldn't be that difficult. But, yeah, this is pretty cool because you can go pretty much anywhere out there and stick in that pole, and nobody's going to know which cousin put that up. I mean, it's got to be some niece, some cousin. And the funny thing about it is, right there's a bluebird box. Right there's a bluebird box. There were actually already 7 nest boxes up in this cemetery. In my area, I kind of promote people to put them up in the cemetery. Our little county, we got 32,000 people, has 132 cemeteries. These are from family plots to 1-acre plots. There's a lot of churches that had a 1-acre plot. So I put up 2 boxes in this cemetery. I had 2 pairs of bluebirds, and the other 5 didn't do as well. But here again, you want them out in the open. But yeah, you can drive one of those rebars in there, and if somebody says, ouch, pull it up a little bit. But usually, if you got somebody, they're really spooky about a cemetery while they're driving it down, go, ouch! You got to have a sense of humor out here. But here's the churchyards. Most of the churchyards will have a fairly good-sized area. I've got 3 boxes up here at this church. We probably have 490 churches in part of town. But there's a church for every 12 people in East Texas. But here again, sometimes you're better off not asking permission. You can kind of stick that up. And here again, there's 190 church members. Who do they think put it up? That'll be the talk of the church for about a month. It's some county land, city land. You can hang the box up on the fence. They'll never know. But here's, out along our roads. I usually put boxes up out along the roads. And I'm kind of like that, the old Bluebird man there. I learned a long time ago. You put those boxes as close to that roadway as you can on a county road, because you don't want to be walking out there in the middle of that field. But anyhow, they're going to nest in anything that's got a dark spot. Okay, that's not a typical birdhouse. But all these shots that I've got on here, bluebirds were nesting in them. And I'm a slumlord. It's one of those, but when you've been doing this for 50 years, there's bound to be some of them, but we did progress. The old box. We used to use bale and twine. There's bale and wire. This is high-tech zip, the plastic zip ties. So, that's not bad. The funny part about that was this was actually a guy, he passed away and his boxes had gone downhill. But the bluebirds were not used in the entrance hole. She actually had babies in there. She was going in and out that hole right there. But, you can put up some new boxes and they'll jump to those. But, we try to keep them all replaced around the area. But this is what you're looking for. A lot of people, they always wonder whether it's their bird coming back, the same one. Pretty much Harry Kruger did a lot of the banding there in East Texas, so we're going to go off of that. No other person, everybody bands the baby birds, but not too many people actually banded the adults. It took him 3 years to perfect it. He had 60 boxes, and he color-coded each bird, each female and male. And so he had 60 boxes, and he was shooting for 60 pairs of bluebirds. 1 year out of 60 boxes, he had 59 bluebirds nesting at the same time. He was fledging 500 baby bluebirds, banded bluebirds, a year from 60 boxes. And so when you start looking at that, Larry Zeleny is one that inspired me. He wrote the first Bluebird book in '75. And that's actually when I started keeping some records and putting up boxes and number them. And in his lifetime, he fledged 1,200 birds. And here Harry is fledging 500 out of 60 boxes. So you can do a whole lot. And like I say, especially with putting up boxes there in your yard. This is what Pauline and what we've all talked about. It's not how many boxes one person can put up and check. It's how many people out here that we can put up and check in one yard. Because it's much better to spread them out and have the boxes scattered across Texas, scattered across the city. You guys can go back and help the kids in a church or Cub Scout or Bluebird group or whatever, to go out and build some boxes. It's 6 pieces of wood. It's 14 nails. So it's really pretty easy. Somebody said, oh man, how are you going to build that many boxes? Okay, you have to kind of look at it from the standpoint of, instead of watching the news, which it's all repeat. We've had news 24 hours a day now on 38 channels. So, how much of that do you have to look at? So you can go out there and cut out 2 box parts and nail together 2 birdhouses a night, and you just built 700 birdhouses this next year. Jack Finch did that. He started out, because he started out doing bluebirding when he was 68. He was in North Carolina. And he decided he was going to build some boxes. He said, well, I just don't have the time, but I can cut 2 a night and build 2 a night. He would dunk them in the preservative. So he built 2 nest boxes a day. In that first year, he built 1,000 boxes. So, he bumped it up a little bit. But anyhow, you could do a simple box. That's why we've got these. There's no angle cuts. Everything's straight cut. You can make these out of a picket fence. But anyhow, that's, there's your bluebird. It's not quite as pretty as some photographs I saw a little bit ago. But, But this is what you're looking for. This is what hooked me when I was 9 years old. I saw the first bluebird when we moved down here to Texas. Put up some of those boxes, and, it seemed like in a day or two, there's eggs in there. Well, a couple more days, my dad took me back out and lifted me up, and they're hatching out. So, I mean, they went from putting up a box to baby birds in the nest in about 7 days. Of course, I had other things going on, so maybe I didn't count every day, but that's pretty cool. And this is about the only thing, when you've got that you can compete with these kids on those smartphones. I mean, seriously, what else can you do there anymore that they can't, best you, do it quicker? When they first hatch out, here again, it's kind of hard competing against some of these other ones, but you end up looking like fish worms. A lot of the kids, when you take them out that have never seen these baby birds, they're expecting a day-old chick or day-old duckling. You look at that and you go, wow, fish worms. Looks real good. How do you guys get them to open up and count them? Open up their mouths and count them. There you go. Who whistled? Need some help. Those kids, when we take out a school group, they've never seen that. So you can take these kids out and say, I bet I can make these birds open their mouths. Yeah, right. And so you do that, and then you're the bluebird expert. You're the bluebird mama. But it's cool. Baby birds, when we take them out, you got to realize those eggs need to be at about 99 degrees to hatch out, just like chicken eggs. What's your body temperature? Yeah, scary, isn't it? We're basically the same temperature as they are. That's why bird viruses and bird flus survive from chickens to humans. We're in the same temperature range. But it's cool. And, they're going to lay 1 egg a day. We've already talked about that. 12 to 13 days, usually 12 days, those eggs are going to hatch out. Okay, that's at 99 degrees. Everything's doing good. Their temperature's not up too high. It'll hatch out at 12 days. But then the cool thing happens is when they hatch out, each day in that baby bluebird's life, they grow as much as a human baby grows in a year. So when you're talking to the school kids, when you're doing this stuff, say, she's 16 days old, 17 days old. She's ready to fly, and at 17 years old, your kids are ready to drive a car. And she can fly as good as they can drive a car. So if you don't have a tree or a shrub or something safe for them to fly to, it's cool. When they first fly, of course, he's got some fabulous pictures of them flying, but I'm sure he's seen it more than maybe some of us. But when they fly off to that big tree and they go to try to land in that tree, they don't know that tree's hard. They have no clue what anything is like out here. They'll fly right smack dab into that green wall and go, wow, that was hard. That hurt. But anyhow, I mean, as a kid, looking at that picture, what do you notice on that bird? She's got white eyeliner. She's got dandruff. Got cat whiskers. Yeah, and it may have some yellow lipstick there or whatever, but it's kind of cool. But that's all that feather chafe, all those, they're getting the pin feathers, they're shedding that. She does have white eyeline out there, got eyelashes. But it's pretty cool. There's a nostril. But yeah, it's pretty neat that in 16 days, 17 days, they actually can fly. But like I say, they need something out there where they can land, because otherwise I've seen them thump all the way down through a tree and sit on the ground like, wow, this wasn't as much fun as it looked like. But it is, and it's like he said, really in 2 weeks, they're ready to fly back, and then they're ready to go. You see, these girls probably already driving now. When we do these boxes, here's some of that pine lumber we cut up with the sawmill. We don't waste anything. There's even the trunk there, the slab trunk off of it. But, when you do something with the kids, they take ownership of that box. There's a name down here on this one down here. That was Jacob. I'm not sure if that's Lisa. She kind of ran out of room, but the other name's on the side of it. But here again, let them take ownership of it. If you're doing a bigger group, you can't keep them all busy, so you give them, let them write their name on it, then take crayons. There's some really pretty cool decorated ones. If you've got a bunch of kids and let them play with it. But that's, make it fun. And then that is their nest box. And if we're going to do boxes at a park or whatever, we will take the kits. We will let these kids nail them together. We'll have them put their name on the bottom of it because that'll hold up well. And then we'll use them in that park. And then they can go out and look for those boxes and find out where their boxes are in that park. And then guess what? Instead of having vandalism out there, you've got kids and families of kids that are going out there looking for the boxes that their sister or brother made. So you kind of have to think in advance. Of course, we've been doing it a long time, so it makes a difference. There's some white eggs. How many of you guys had white eggs? Yeah, see quite a few. Usually, I don't know. I mean, they say a couple out of 100 nests will have it. It's interesting this year, the same bird that laid white eggs last year, she laid them again this year. I've seen where one big batch of white eggs where she may have had 15 babies one year. Then there'd be some white eggs scattered down the road for a couple of miles, and it would come back. So it's either hereditary. There's a couple of different reasons for it. Harry Kruger, like I say, when he was banding those birds, those 60 pairs of birds, he found that most of the bluebirds stayed together for 2 to 3 years. He said on occasion, he actually did have 2 of them that he thought maybe wife swapped. Could have been the other way around. It could have been husband swapping. I mean, we're not sure. But he had one that was a bigamist. He trapped this one male that was feeding young in 2 different nests with 2 different girls. But after the second nesting, he gave up the one and another male took over there. So, but yeah, it's kind of interesting. On average, the males tended to disappear more often than the females. He had really good boxes, really good predator guards. So he felt that the males maybe tended to get killed off more than the females did. Talking about longevity, somebody was asking about longevity there at lunch. He had one female that she was 6 years old. And the interesting thing is since he banded them as young babies, and he trapped them every single time they laid eggs and banded their babies, each nesting he trapped the adults to make sure that they were still with the same boy. That he found out that she was 6 years old and she was still nesting in the same box she was born in. Okay? The cool thing about it was that year was that female had her daughters from the year before. There were 5 of her daughters that were nesting on the same road in the nearest boxes to the parents' box. And he found that several times, that the females from the year before would nest close to the parents, but the boys were driven away. So Harry banded, I don't know, something like 3,200 birds. Out of 3,200 banding attempts, he found had one return. One bird showed up in a marten house, died over winter 12 miles from his house. So other than that, other than ones that Harry retrapped, he never had any other returns because something eats them, or we don't really look at dead birds that much. There's not too many people going out looking for roadkill. Interesting thing with the female, it was 6 years old. The first year she had one male. The next year, here again, she's in that same box. He traps her. She's got a different male for 2 years. Okay, then she's 6 years old now. She's had 6 basically nesting years. In the male that she'd been with for 3 years, this box happened to be in a guy's yard. It's kind of the way I put up boxes in people's yards. Well, he's checking abandonment in this guy's yard. This guy calls him up and he says, Harry, he said, I hate to tell you this, but he said a cat came in with my kids from Dallas, and he said the Bluebird was down right there off the front porch this morning. He said the cat jumped off the porch, nailed that Bluebird and killed it. And Harry says, oh my gosh, they got 6 babies in that box. They're 6 days old. They really need food. And he says, which one was it? Because the females are better. I mean, we all know that. Females do better raising 6 kids. So anyhow, he's there on the phone. The guy says, I don't know. He says, you're the bird expert. He says, I got the bird. He says, you can come and look at it and see which one it is. So he goes and checks the bands, and it was the male that's been with her for 3 years. And he was thinking about going and getting mealworms, because back then, in those days, we didn't feed mealworms. We didn't worry too much about it. He was thinking about going buying crickets there at the bait shop. And so he's sitting there thinking this through his head, and this has been about 10, 15 minutes. And so he's sitting there going, still trying to debate what to do. And all of a sudden, there's a male bluebird that's singing in the yard. Now, the female this whole time is going back and forth and getting insects and feeding those 6 babies. And here he's going, wow, another male bluebird's already moving in on the territory. And so that male calls a little bit, and the female ignores him, and then she answers back. And then she goes out in the field, and then the male follows her, and they both come back with grasshoppers. Now, this has been 15 minutes. That male starts helping her feed those baby birds. To this day, Harry Kruger would have told you, he said, she could have waited a day. You know, the funny thing, when you're standing up here, one of these times in a mixed group, I'm going to have to film it because you can see the women are just rolling on the floor, and there's guys that are going like. But yeah, it's, and I think we mentioned that a little bit earlier this morning, one of the other speakers is, yeah, they're actually very good at sticking together as mates. But when that pair bond breaks, they don't have a whole lot of time to make a decision. And so when another good-looking younger boy shows up, you just don't know. Being a master gardener, here's combining a $20 planter with a bluebird nest. So, but here again, when you look, you shouldn't have bluebirds in that yard. But if you have an opportunity and you have a lot of bluebirds around, you are going to have them nest in a lot of different places. I gave a talk. There's a couple of people here that were from Longview area. I gave a talk a couple of weeks back in Longview, downtown Longview, doing the program. When I'm getting ready to leave, there's a pair of bluebirds out in front of the building. There's not enough grass there to feed 6 grasshoppers, but they're there. It's a cool thing about bluebirds. If you've got them this is pretty neat because we've got several different areas where I know the security guards, bluebirds will feed all night long if there's lights. If you've got a parking lot or like a baseball diamond, if you go to the baseball game, sometimes you'll still see the bluebirds out there on the field, and they'll be carrying food all night long as those lights are on. They'll take cat naps and this, that, and the other, so the babies can fledge quicker because they're getting more protein in a shorter amount of time. So it's pretty cool what happens. And they keep asking, which direction do I face the birdhouse? What difference does it make? Just put up plenty. You'll figure it out. This is at Caddo Lake, and there are probably 200 or 300 nesting boxes just up in a couple of those communities. They have prothonotary warblers. They got a lot of bluebirds. Pretty cool spot. But they have kind of this at each major road system there. So you'll have 6 or 8 or 10 boxes like that. But yeah, they have a lot of bluebirds over there. And what did they say? Put your boxes 100 yards apart. I think that's 100 inches apart. The funny thing about that, and we were talking here again at a couple of different people, he actually has this around his entire backyard. So he's got 3 walls of boxes around his yard. He will get 3 pairs of bluebirds there in that yard at the same time. The bluebirds that nest on one of these boxes will feed in the neighbor's yard over here. The ones that feed in the back will cross the fence and feed in the pasture. The ones on the other side of the yard feed in there. He said none of them feed in his backyard because that's a war zone. That's a contested area. But I mean, you've got neighbors like that kind of stay on their side of the fence. So, but he's got every kind of box up there. So when I recommend people put up 4 boxes or 5 boxes in a yard for your chickadees, tufted titmice, Carolina wrens, and all that, check that out. And then you got dinner on a stick, So here again, if it's actually most of my boxes, we actually staged this one a while back, but we actually have most of the boxes there on the east side of a power pole. kind of got quasi permission to do that from the power company and the guys and all. But here again, don't ask for written permission. They won't give it to you, but if you do it, they let you go. But these boxes are in the shade all afternoon. I found over all the years the biggest killer of bluebirds in my boxes was actually the sun, the heat in the summer. Because once those eggs get up over 108 degrees, what happens to a human baby if we get to 103 or 4 degree temperature? We can't even function at 105. At 108, it's lethal. So how hot does it get with the sun shining on it? What did we show, 108 degrees on that one box? But here again, if it's shaded in the afternoon, that's a big deal. If you don't have a wide post, put the boxes where the trees will shade it in late afternoon, keep it out from under the main canopy. But put your boxes on the east side of the tree line. That's a huge deal. Here again, open pastures around. Eye level. So here again, we've got a couple here from Florida. They drove all the way from Florida here. Where are they? Here he is back here. So they drove all the way from Florida. And it wasn't an accident. I said, well, who you visiting? He says, y'all. So welcome. So we enjoyed that. Anybody come further than 900 miles? And that's one way. We thank you. But anyhow, be kind of watch. Around livestock is usually a pretty good spot for your boxes where it's open and kind of scattered out there. Scattered trees are good here. Again, those baby birds need to go to the woods. If you got thicker woods, you're going to have flying squirrels out there. You're going to have your chickadees, tufted titmice. It's been fun, over the years. I got started when I knew these guys. That's Ron Kingston. He's the one that designs the stovepipe guard. And the photo is 2001. He never thought to patent that. Everybody used that for a squirrel guard and this, that, and the other. He never patented that. But he's still alive. His wife just passed away. He's in Virginia. Here again, there's Egg McMuffin. And the funny part about this photo is I did pick up that roadkill. So, I got all those black vultures to feed. So, yeah. And so we did check it out. There it is, 6 inches. And with the kids, I told them, I said, raccoons wrote all the Bluebird books, all these bird books, because all of them say that nest, the entrance hole, needs to be 6 inches above the floor of the box. Well, that's how far a raccoon can reach. So that raccoons wanted to make sure they could reach all the eggs in a box. And I had a little smart aleck 5th grader, a little boy. He stood up one day and he said, well, he said it could have been an opossum. And so I thought about that, and I didn't have a good answer. He left me pretty speechless. So I went out and found a possum. And so if it had been an opossum, those boxes would have been 5 inches deep. So anyhow, you kind of have to look at it. The scary thing about all this stuff is there's a circle of life. Everything's interconnected. There's your possum foot. Okay, think back, Star Wars is coming out. Remember Yoda? Remember Yoda's hand? Yoda's hand is patterned after a possum foot. Because he had the claws just like that. And the scary thing on an opossum, if you look with kids, we tell them if you look real close, opossums have fingerprints like humans do. Now that's a scary thought. There's Don Hutchings' hand there. When we did the Bluebird Monitors Guide, and there's one of the raccoon guards back there. Those really work about as well as anything. They're real quick for a fix. You may not have raccoon problem for years and years. The lady's here from Mahia. She's still in the room. There she is. Elizabeth Withrow did the state park out there at Mahia for 40 years. Something like that. She was a school teacher out there. And she had problems with raccoons, and so we were working with her. They did the PVC guards for a while. Now they've gone to the wire guards. But anyhow, that's a pretty good raccoon guard. But the PVC is easy to make, easy to cut. Here's your flying squirrels. Flying squirrels have flown for millions of years, and if you look at that nose, You can see on the really dark nights, they thump into walls. You got cat whiskers. If you look real close, there should be my pickup truck, my work truck's in there. There's a selfie. Right there, there's a selfie. Baby flying squirrels in January. Teenagers in summer. The biggest predator of flying squirrels is actually rat snakes. And so is anybody scared of rat snakes on the front row? We don't want you climbing back through there. So we're going to have a snake. Give her room around the corner. But anyhow, snakes are a big predator of bluebirds. There's a flying squirrel nest box. We've got some mesh stuff back there. The Harry Kruger mesh snake trap will catch them out. There's actually flying squirrels in this box this year. That mesh was laying in my garage, and I caught 2 snakes in my garage. My wife just loves me because I usually end up bringing snakes home. We do use the Amdro for the fire ants, and there's some other stuff that you can kind of use. Sparrow swap. Oh, yeah, I heard somebody say something good. You need to look up Sparrow Swap. It's from the North Carolina Museum of Natural History. Got just a couple more minutes here, but we're going to go. But look up Sparrow Swap. We're going to go through a couple, and I'm going to end up. You can tell a bluebirder by the mirrors. Okay, good. If you need to pick those up, if you guys would. It's an interesting project we're working with on them. Don and I have been doing it for 2 years. They're sending eggs in. But if you got bluebirds that are tearing up your windows there, pooping all down the side of your car, cover them up. If you got shiny chrome, then you got to tape that off. Bluebirds and gourds. This is what we do. I mean, we try to get these kids involved. This is what we want y'all to do. Let's get out there and get these kids going. Help these kids build boxes. Because if you get it in your community, on your block, then you guys will have more bluebirds. And the kids will grow up and appreciate it more. Y'all good for today? He's fixing to pull the hook. I'm going to stick around and I'll visit with y'all. And like I say, but the kids are where to work with. We may have to go back to the other room and we may have to tell the flying squirrel story back there. I thought I might give the story a break. Got to make it quick. Do we want to do that?
I don't know. Anybody need to leave right at 3? All right, take it away, buddy. Make it quick.
Flying squirrels. You saw how cute they are. So what we will do is these are on usually a telephone pole. So you have a telephone pole. It's about 40 feet high. Okay, flying squirrels, if they can run to the top of that pole, they can sail from here to the back of the room, okay? They'll go into some trees. So we usually would find a couple of poles. I've got 5 right now. But we'll have a telephone pole, and it's out in the middle. And these flying squirrels have flown to that pole because I've got a birdhouse on it. They're sleeping in this birdhouse. They get driven out of these other poles and trees and all. So anyhow, you got these flying squirrels here. It's the middle of the night. If you've got in the daytime for them, it's the middle of their night. So you can get these squirrels. Remember those 6'5" little squirrels there? You can open up that box, tap on the box, and they'll come out of it. And then they run around the pole and hide from you. So you beat on the pole, and they think that something's going to run up that pole and eat them. So what we had done was we'd taken all these little 4-H girls in the school, we lined them up right out across in through here. And so they're out there. There's nothing, all big open pastures. So these squirrels are going to dive down. They come like these little skydivers in those suits, and they'll dive straight down. And when they get about ready to hit me, they flare out, and they go whoosh. They take off, and they go way up, and they fly over to the trees. So the ideal situation is for those squirrels to fly right over the heads of all these girls. And so if you got them all lined up out there, he's got to fly over one of them and go to the woods. So anyhow, everything's working good. Soccer moms are all behind me on the road. There's a road right here. Pasture on the other side. And all their choice little girls are out there scattered in this field. And so we get the squirrel to run up there, and the darn thing slips. and he's only up there about halfway, and he slips and falls off the pole. And I'm sitting there looking at him coming down saying, this is not good because he's not getting enough speed. So anyhow, he's coming down, he flares out, and right away, this squirrel, looks like Count Dracula flying out along here, he decides he's going to land on the girls over here, but they're too short. The tallest girl's all the way around over here. So here's this little squirrel. He's flying 90 to nothing. This happens real fast. So this little squirrel looks like a little jet fighter. He's flying around behind those girls going too short, too short, too short, too short. And he's coming around here 90 to nothing. So I decide I'm going to go over here, and because he's going to land on this girl. Because she's the tallest one, and that squirrel's just coming 90 to nothing around behind her. Well, she's got her back to me. She's standing up looking at this squirrel coming at her. It's okay, because the squirrels don't just land on you like a bird. They flare up, do a full stop. They put out all 4 sharp claws, and then they nail you. And so here the squirrel's coming around. This girl's standing there looking at there, and I'm right about here, and I make a grab, and I miss her. That squirrel's going to land not on her leg, not on her chest, or whatever. He's going to land on her face. And so he flares out, and he's coming flat right at her face. And at the very last instant, I miss her. But that squirrel is coming 90 to nothing, and she ducks. And so I'm sitting here like this, and then all I see over the back of her head is this flying squirrel doing this. And so guess who's behind her? So now I got a squirrel on me, and it's up here, it's over here, it's up here. They got sharp claws, it's on my shirt. So anyhow, as I back up and stumble away, that darn thing jumps off my shoulder, hits the ground, hits this pole, runs up there and goes in that birdhouse. Every girl out there in that pasture went. But the funny part, because while I was going to that girl, she was the girl in high school out of that group. We had 9-year-olds, the high school girl. Every soccer mom behind me was going, oh my God. But everything turned out okay. But anyhow, we hope you guys enjoyed the day. And there's some other tall tales I could tell, but we're a little bit out of time.
Unfortunately. Thanks, Keith. Didn't you say somebody in the crowd yelled out, do it again? It's fantastic. All right, folks, I hope you've enjoyed today. A lot of work went into this. We had a few, thank you so much. A lot of work went into this. So we had with this technical stuff. Wow, this is the worst we've had in a while. This is rough. But we made it through, and hopefully you saw all of our passion for bluebirds. Hopefully we've shared that with you, and you guys are leaving with some passion for these amazing animals.